Hello there, Data Recovery Guru here. Hope all is well. Today, I'm making this video about a tool called PC3000 Portable Pro, which is a new model redesign of PC3000 Portable 3, which is made by a company called Ace Labs in the Czech Republic. They are the leaders in data recovery. We've been using their tools for many years, and we were able to purchase the PC3000 Portable Pro this month, October 2024. Now that it has been released. It's an excellent tool, and I'd like to make a video about it to highlight a particular feature / strength in regards to Intel Optane NVMe SSDs. And I'll give you a good amount of details so you can understand how powerful this tool is compared to others where PC3000 Portable Pro was able to help and recover the files while all the other ones could not. Okay, so let's get to it. So this is a tool, PC3000 Portable Pro. This is what it looks like hardware-wise. We made a video prior where we unboxed it. As you can see, we have it here on the table operating. We are recovering data from this NVMe WD SSD right now. But the NVMe Intel Optane that I want to talk about is right here. Okay, it's connected to port 2 and port 1. For NVMe Intel solid states, we need to have it connected like this, okay? On this port, here on this side, but also with this extension SATA cable connected to port 1. So let's start first by talking about the customer. So here's the Intel Optane SSD, the customer's SSD. This customer is local here in the West Warwick, Rhode Island area, which is south of Massachusetts. We operate in Massachusetts and Rhode Island primarily. This is our local area, and New Hampshire as well. But yes, so this customer from Rhode Island had this Intel Optane SSD inside an HP laptop. I think it was the Spectre 360 model. And so what happened, we don't have the laptop. Customer did not bring it to us. But the story is, if we read here under the failure description, customer is saying that Intel Optane SSD removed from an HP Envy laptop. I'm sorry, not the Spectre, it's an Envy laptop. They needed data recovered. And as you can see here, they are mentioning that they have the BitLocker recovery key, but they no longer have the laptop. So the data on this solid state was encrypted with BitLocker. Okay. When the customer called us initially, they told us that they took the laptop to Best Buy because the laptop was no longer working due to a battery being swollen. Okay. And because of that, the laptop will no longer work. So the customer took the laptop, went to Best Buy, where, you know, they do basic kind of like computer work. So what they did here, they removed the solid state. They realized that it's an Intel Optane. And I guess the local tech there spoke to the manager, and they couldn't figure out how to access the data. Which in many cases, when these fail, it's very difficult to recover the data. Or at least it's very challenging if you don't have the knowledge and the tools. But with this particular solid state, the problem is not even the solid state. The problem was the laptop because it had a swollen battery, right? So I don't have a whole lot of examples, but here are some laptops, right, with the batteries. This is a Mac. That's a Surface model. This is an older one. Anyways, the batteries swollen out, and then the laptop is no longer working. So So once the technician at Best Buy removed the solid state, they didn't know what to do with it. You know, they couldn't work with it. The manager said, we cannot help. Many computer technicians struggle with NVMe drives. You know, they usually take some kind of adapter. See, like here are some examples of NVMe adapters. This is one, this is one, this is one, this is one, another one. So technicians typically grab one of those adapters, they put the solid state inside, and then they try to access the files by connecting to a computer. Now, with Intel Optane SSDs, just plugging in the computer, especially if it's encrypted with BitLocker, the data is not going to pop up, right? And the reason being is because, number one, for this particular customer, the data was encrypted with BitLocker. And number two, it has to do with how Intel Optane H10 and H20 SSD models work. They are very complex devices. They basically have two areas of storage. One, which is the main NAND flash area that hosts the big partition, the NTFS partition, but also it has a cache solid state component that basically stores the metadata about the main data on the NAND flash chip. Okay, so it's two components here. We have the cache solid state, and also we have the big partition of the solid state. So cache partition holding the metadata, and then we have the main volume partition that hosts the file. So the metadata in the cache is pointing to where the files on the main partition are located. I'll give you an analogy that you might have come across, for example, in Fusion drives on Macs, okay? So on iMacs, for example, there's a technology that Apple created. It's called Fusion drives. So Fusion drives, if you take apart the iMac, right? If you remove the screen and you take apart the iMac completely, you're going to discover that inside the Mac here, if you remove all the components, the logic board and everything else, you'll discover what is known as a Fusion drive. A Fusion drive is a combination of a hard disk drive and then a solid state drive. So conceptually, it's kind of the same thing. Let me move them off the floor. Actually, that's fine. So conceptually, it's the same thing. The hard disk drive stores all of the files for the customer, for the user that stores the files on the iMac. And the solid state is basically a cache drive that has been designed to optimize for speed so that the user has a better experience in using the iMac. The older iMacs, like this one here, for example, they were using just hard disk drives. For this particular iMac, the customer actually installed a solid state, so they made it faster. But the original ones, they only had the hard disk drive, like this one. And they were very slow. So Apple thought about installing a solid state as a cache to make the user experience much faster, so that they can access the files in the cache as well as the metadata much quicker, so that they can access the files in a much more advantageous kind of way, so that they can have a better user experience. So again, kind of like conceptually the same thing. We have a cache solid state, and in Fusion drives we have the hard disk drive. So metadata pointing to the actual data. Now we take this concept, and here Intel thought about implementing this concept in one NVMe SSD by itself, where we have a cache partition as well as the main data partition. Combined together, they create kind of like a mini RAID, like a small RAID, where the files are stored. And so once those guys no longer work or they have issues with corruption or anything along those lines, it's very difficult to put together and access the files. Now, with the power of PC3000 Portable Pro, you were able to recover the files. Now, I'm shooting this video kind of like in rewinding order, where I'm showing what worked with PC3000 Portable Pro as a successful solution, and I'm working backwards showing you what did not work. So I'm showing you what worked, and then as we shoot the video, as we record the video, I'm going to shoot examples using tools where the recovery was not possible. So this way we can highlight how PC3000 Portable Pro was able to handle the job. So excuse my cough, sorry, it's a little cold here in Massachusetts. So we have the Intel Optane SSD connected here to port 2 and port 1. And then we go in the interface of PC3000 Portable Pro. And here we run the software. And for this particular task, because we are using 2 channels to access the cache and the main partition, we need both ports activated. So we need port 2 and port 1 turned on. I have already done this. I'm just showing the interface here on how to use the PC3000 Portable Pro. So let's see here. As you can see, I have already powered the SSD on. So port 1 is powered on, and then port 2 is powered on as well. And here what we had to do is basically create partitions and create a BitLocker volume as a RAID so that we can build correctly the folder structure so we can access the customer's files. This is not possible to do with other tools, as I'm going to demonstrate once we showed you the data here. With other tools, the folder structure is going to show. However, the metadata is not pointing correctly to the folder structure, no matter where it's going to show the customer's data. For example, here under the user's profile, the customer's name is Susan. So her user profile was Susan. So here you can see the customer's data. However, when we're going to demonstrate later on using other tools, you'll see the user profile here does not show with other tools. So this basically shows how powerful PC3000 Portable Pro is in allowing to work with Intel Optane cache and main volume data partitions. So PC3000 Portable Pro developers are still working on making the ability to rebuild this through the interface in a much easier format. So this was actually a study case where we worked with developers so we can improve the tool. They were very nice to work with us, and we are happy to make this video where we can collaborate and hopefully are able to help as many customers as possible. So with PC3000 Portable Pro, we were able to have a successful recovery and recover the customer's files. And now I'm going to demonstrate how with other tools this was not possible. Okay, so let's power off. Port 2, port 1, power off. Okay, so now we got the power off on the solid state. Let me pause for a second so I can unscrew the SSD out of here. All right, so as we discussed, we are now going to demonstrate how we use other tools where the recovery was not successful. So here we have the Magic Box DFL NVMe tool. We have connected the Intel Optane SSD. This is a great tool. Many times it works fine, especially when the other tools are busy. But in this particular case, I just want to highlight how it did not work in this particular case with the Intel Optane. Okay, so let's bring it up. You're gonna use the PCIe, say okay. Once again, I want to emphasize, this is a healthy Intel Optane SSD from a hardware perspective. There's nothing wrong with this, and it should be working fine. There's no corruptions or anything like that. It's just that the systems don't understand how Intel Optane works, therefore confusing the tools, you know? So that's the point of highlighting how PC3000 Portable Pro is able to work with those drives and get the recovery done successfully. So, all right, so here we are using the DFL URE Plus with the NVMe connector. As you can see here, the drive gets ready, is responding correctly to factory commands. And now let's see if we can access the files. Oh, sorry, wrong window. Let me pause for a second so I can grab a chair. Okay, here we go. So let's open a new project. Let's call it a new task, that's fine. I'm gonna do a file extraction. All right, so as you can see here, it says the partition's fine, okay? Actually, it does not see the partitions fine. It only sees the cache partition. It does not see the big volume. So that's another issue. See, this tool does not see the main NTFS volume. It only sees the cache volume or partition. It doesn't see the big partition, only sees the small partition. That's not good. Therefore, we cannot find the folder structure. So as you can see, this tool doesn't work. Even if we're to scan for partitions, I don't think it's gonna be able to find it. I believe we have tried this before, you know. So we found one, we already see that one. We don't care for that one, so let's not save it. No. Okay, it's still running a scan. Let's see, does it find any other partitions? Again, those are tricky because number one, of the Intel Optane design with the cache partition and the main data partition, as well as the fact that this drive's data is BitLocker encrypted, you know. So we have a two-level problem where we need to solve two things. Number one, the tool has to see both partitions, and then also solve the BitLocker encryption problem. So here, as you can see, it's not finding the partition that contains the main folders and files. It sees the cache partition, but not the main partition. So I'm gonna stop it. We have already tried this. It didn't work successfully. All right. So stop, close this, and power off. Okay, very good. Let's disconnect here, and we are going to take the SSD to a different tool. By the way, I should have mentioned that the DFL tool actually does have some good features where, for example, it does have a decryption module where you can select the main partition, and then here has a data decryption module, and then you can select, you know, the type of encryptions that we are dealing with. So in this case, it's BitLocker, and then we'll be using the recovery key because that's what we have. I'm gonna paste the recovery key in there, but it's not detecting it successfully. It doesn't understand it, you know. So it does work in other cases, but not in this particular case because, like I said, it's an Intel Optane, and many of the tools don't understand how to work with it correctly, as opposed to how PC3000 Portable Pro can. All right, so let me shut this down. Okay, let's disconnect. Okay, next we are going to use the DSPAR 10G tool. We have connected the Intel Optane SSD over here to our NVMe key. And let's go to the menu. First, let me grab a seat. Okay, very good. Let's open DSPAR. Yes, gonna use the NVMe port. And then this is an SSD. Repower is fine. Let's go to lock here. You know what? They have an update that has been released. Let's do the update, because with the tool as is, with this version, it didn't work. So let's do the update and see if it works. Okay, so he's downloading the software. All right. Okay, quit, and then run it again. All right. So now we should have version 2.01, I believe. All right, let's see. Log. Okay, great. So we have 2.01a. Oh, we have to complete the update. Hold on 1 second. The update requires for us to reboot the system, so hold on a second. All right, of course we have to do some Windows updates as well. You always come at the worst time. Okay. So SSD, repower. Sorry, let's connect the USB stabilizer. Typically when we do Windows updates, it's not good to have the unit connected. Okay. All right, very good. He found it. 2.01 version. You know what, let's do it one more time. Okay, VME, SSD, he found, everything looks good now. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the SSD, the Intel Optane, is connected here to the NVMe port. Let's power on. It will identify correctly, you will see. See, it's showing the correct capacity, it's recognized correctly. It's ready to show the sector map. So now let's open up some tools. Let's open RStudio, for example. Okay. As you can see, it's reading data from the SSD just fine. Okay. So let's close these. Okay. So here's the Intel Optane. As you can see, DeepSpar does see both partitions, right? That's the cache, and this is the main Windows partition that contains the data files, okay? However, RStudio doesn't understand how to create the Optane volume combined, right? Also, as you can see, it doesn't show that the data is BitLocker encrypted, so it doesn't understand correctly what's going on with this Intel Optane. Let's try UFS Explorer. Let's see. UFS Explorer is actually one of the better softwares that does work with the Intel Optane fairly well. But when we tested with this, it did not work for us. It has worked in the past with other cases, but this particular case, it did not work. And once again, this is a healthy SSD. It's just that it has the tricky Optane configuration, and it's BitLocker encrypted. All right, so it doesn't see it. That's weird. It's not showing the list. Why is that? It's still connected here. Oh, we had a read error. Interesting. I don't remember that happening before. So let's power off. Let's power back on. It shows correctly. Let's refresh here. Let's refresh and see if it populates the drive correctly. Oh, interesting. It looks like the Intel Optane is being recognized with read operation. Huh, that's weird. Interesting. I did not see that before. Okay. It's still not showing it here though. It's still not populating it. So, not sure what the deal is. Open. This image file. Nope. Um, let's see if we browse in RStudio. Does it allow us to browse? Yeah, so you see in RStudio we can browse the solid state just fine. As you can see, the data is encrypted. You can't read anything to the naked eye. So here is fine, but in UFX Explorer it's not fine. Let's try DMD for example. Let's see, does it show it in here? It does. Okay, so as you can see, that's the Intel Optane. Correct capacity, show partitions, yes. It identifies an error, okay. Ignore all. All right, let's see, what do we have here? So here, that should be the cache volume. Let's make this bigger. But, okay, so we have, that's the main volume, that's the cache. Once again, with this tool, with DMDE, it doesn't understand how to work with BitLocker encryption. So it does see both the cache and the main volume, but it doesn't know how to work with BitLocker. It doesn't recognize the BitLocker encryption. So we can't recover with this one either. So those are kind of like the main softwares that we can use: RStudio, UFS Explorer, DMDE. We can use Reclaim, but as far as I remember, Reclaim does not work with BitLocker either. But let's try it. You know, we'll do the due diligence. It's a little slow, so I'm gonna pause it for a second. So in Reclaim, we do see, no, that's not it. We see the cache and we see the main volume as well. But does it know how to interpret the data correctly? I'm gonna pause it here while it's populating. Reclaim is pretty good at populating as it scans. See, the scan is ongoing. It's pretty good at doing that. Let's see, does it see the, see, this one? It doesn't see the Susan user profile. So once again, this confirms that it doesn't understand how to work with the cache partition. So this is failing as well. So let's quit all these tools. We don't need them. And we are going to stop this bar as well. Next, we are going to connect the drive directly. Although it's not recommended, I see that it does give a read error. We are going to connect the SSD directly to the machine. All right, so here's the solid state. We are going to connect it directly to the computer. All right, so our USB-C port here. It's going to give an error because it doesn't understand what's going on. So let's look in Explorer. This PC, as you can see, it recognizes the drive, but it doesn't know what it is. It doesn't understand it. Let's use data recovery tools. Let's see, does RStudio understand it now? It's flashing, so it's reading it. That's not it, that's not it, that's not it. Okay, so here's the Intel Optane. It sees the main volume, and it sees the cache partition again, but it doesn't understand the encryption. Okay, let's do UFS Explorer again. Does it recognize it now? Let's see. Does it see the SSD? It's flashing. Okay, now UFS Explorer does see the SSD, okay? It's right here. It sees, very interesting, see? In UFS Explorer, we can see the main NTFS partition. As you can see, it's marked with red. Doesn't understand it. Maybe there's some kind of corruption or something, the way it interprets it. but it doesn't see the cache Optane partition. So here, again, we cannot recover. If you right click on this and we try to decrypt, it's not gonna understand it. UFS Explorer, like I said, it's a better tool for recovering Intel Optane SSDs, but the only way that it works successfully here is if the Optane partition, the cache partition, is actually detected. If it's not detected, then it's not possible to access the data. It's imperative that the cache partition is listed here in the tool so that we can go ahead and build the volume, then apply BitLocker decryption, and then finally access the files. So in this particular case, once again, these tools did not work. Okay, so I'm gonna close them out, quit. Okay. What we are going to try next is other way to basically use as a trick is to take the Intel Optane SSD and connect it to a motherboard directly on the M.2 slot. But the motherboard has to support bifurcation technologies, which is what Intel Optane NVMe SSDs use. It's a bifurcation kind of like design. So let me try that. I was hoping to connect to this machine, which has the bifurcation logic board, to kind of like show you what we did. However, we have another recovery ongoing. It's extracting right now, and I don't want to disturb it. This was a difficult recovery, and I don't want to stop it. So I promise, we did put the SSD. You see the M.2 slot right there? Let's see. See, right there? We did put the SSD right in there and rebooted the machine, and it was still not able to see the partitions correctly. I would have liked to show that as well, just for due diligence. However, we can't interrupt this right now. So what's another thing we can do? Some people might say, well, how about if you test it on a Mac? Okay, let's do it on a Mac. Okay, so we just connected this to the Mac. Let's see. So this is NTFS. On Macs, NTFS is not supported natively, but it's going to mount in read-only mode, which is still helpful to work with drives from PCs. But let's see, does it mount? Don't see any much LED activity, so it's not connecting. Let's see, can we see it in this utility? It's recognizing something. See? It's recognizing the main NTFS volume, but it doesn't understand the Intel Optane correctly. Also, the fact that it's encrypted, that doesn't help. Either way, normally it will mount here on the Mac as a read-only mode. So again, on a Mac, there's nothing we can do for this case. Again, another tool where we can resolve. We want to use tools. Let's use tools. Let's use our studio. Let's see. Sorry about that. My hand hurts. So I have to. I have to switch hands sometimes. All right, our studio is loading. Let's see. So again, here we see the main NTFS volume, but we don't see the cache Optane volume. So that's not good. What about UFS Explorer? Come on. Now, let's see, what do we see here? Again, we see the main NTFS partition, just like in Windows. It has the red dot indicating that there's some kind of corruption, but it doesn't understand the whole thing. Interestingly, though, in this scenario on the Mac, as you can see, it's detecting the span component. It understands that it is a RAID. So UFS Explorer for Mac, it does see that this is some kind of RAID. It's a span component, right? That's how the cache volume and the main volume are set up, right? It's a span volume, Intel REST. So it's detecting that. However, it's still unable to work with it because it doesn't understand it. So can we decrypt? See, it doesn't provide the option to work with it. It doesn't recognize it correctly. Normally in here we should have seen the Intel cache partition popping up along with the main NTFS partition, and then from there we can employ the feature that UFS Explorer supports in order to access the files, first by resolving BitLocker, and then allowing to access the actual files on the SSD. But again, there's a problem here, and UFS cannot help. Okay, what else? Let's use distro. How about distro? Okay. Distro is able to see the main Windows partition, but it doesn't see the Intel Optane cache partition. Again, same scenario. It doesn't understand how to work with those Intel Optane NVMe SSDs. It doesn't understand how to build the structure correctly. So, any other tool that we can try here that may be able to help? Nah, these are the top tools. RStudio, UFS Explorer. Some people like distro, but yeah, so it's unable to help. Okay, so that's why we highly recommend PC3000 Portable Pro. It's because it's able to see both volumes, as we have demonstrated here in Data Extractor. It's able to see the main volume and the Intel Optane cache volume. We are able to clone both partitions successfully, and then using the RAID configuration in the Data Extractor RAID edition, we can build the structure in a manner that allows us to find the user profile called Susan for this customer and recover the file successfully. So hopefully this was very helpful for folks in understanding how to use PC3000 Portable Pro prowess and strength in terms of hardware and software ability to solve problems when we work with Intel Optane SSDs. Obviously, because of the very advanced development that has gone into the tool, obviously, you know, it's a top tool. It's the best tool on the market, especially if it's for mobile use. This is portable, right? We can take it places. It has write protection features. It works in read-only mode with devices. So it's a fantastic tool. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive than everything else, but it's worthwhile. And we are very happy we acquired it and able to solve very complex problems with NVMe drives. As you can see here, we are recovering another NVMe. This is the Western Digital portable external drive. But anyway, this was a video to emphasize how powerful PC3000 Portable Pro is in solving data recovery issues with Intel Optane SSDs. All right. Thanks so much.